and Butter, where we are serving up the basics for Hearthstone improvement. This is episode 116. I am Tito, and as always, I am joined by Plyet. Plyet, how are you today?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. And today we are going to be talking with NHLNjFan1 and Lina about fundamentals when you first start to play the game. And so last week we talked a bit about what to do when you've been playing for a while and you're an intermediate player. This is about hey, this concepts that you got to learn as a beginner. How do you learn them right off the bat? So we'll talk about that. But Lina, NHL fan, how are you guys doing?
Pretty good, actually. It's been a long weekend. We're actually here in the States this month over from Sweden for some family stuff. But it's been a good time. So, Lina?
Yeah, we've had pretty good days. Today was actually really fun. Easter and all that. It's been great weather too. The sun was out. I feel like I have a heat stroke. It's been fantastic, genuinely.
I've had heat stroke, and that's not fantastic. So I hope
You
that
know
doesn't
what?
happen.
I get heat strokes over everything.
But what have you been doing inside of the game of Hearthstone, Lina?
Me, I've mostly been playing actually with Drunk Paladin, speaking of. It's been a really fun time. I tend to stick with what I like, so that's all I've been really doing. On ladder, of course, casual too.
Fair enough. It's been weird for me because as someone that plays a lot of Paladin, I have not played very much Paladin this expansion. I played a little bit of the Tree Paladin because that was fun, but I haven't played Drunk Paladin yet. That's on my to-do list, but right now I'm just trying to climb and I don't want to learn a new deck while I'm climbing. But NHL fan, what have you been doing in Hearthstone?
Yeah, so normally I jump around between formats, but this time I haven't. I actually went to standard only for the last few weeks, and it's been a great time. I've been playing all different kinds of decks there. I've done Drunk Paladin like Lina. I've also been doing a bit of Protoss Rogue. Rogue's been a good time. And I've really enjoyed the new variants of Wheel Warlock. And I started with the Yarn Warlock when it was first blowing up. And then I wasn't doing so hot, so I switched to Starship Warlock. That was a good time, but it felt a bit linear for me.
Apparently, apparently for NHL fan, it's been turn 5 of Wheel, and he has exploded.
We'll get there eventually.
We'll get there eventually. So, Pilot, what have you been doing inside of Hearthstone?
I've been bouncing around between decks, trying to figure out what I want to play and try to find what sticks, and haven't quite found that yet. Feel like it's been a lot of win 5, lose 7, win 3, lose 2, win 10, just bouncing all over the place. But been trying out some of the Drunk Paladin a little bit. I played a Tree Paladin that had the aggro token early game. Played a little bit of Ashmane Rogue. Played a couple different Death Knights with the Double Frost one Unholy. Just get them. A lot of burn in that deck, and also some hand buff, and just kind of trying to see what works with the weird pocket metas that I've been in. I did have one game yesterday where I was playing the Ashmane Rogue, and I ended up with multiple of the 3/3 combo Targath, I think it is. I discovered one, got another copy of it, and ended up having 2 of them on board to clear a sea shanty board because it doubles twice. So I did 8 damage with my backstabs, and then was able to resurrect another one from a mixologist spell to clear up the giant turn and somehow survive that game. So goofy, don't rely on that. That's a bad plan if you're relying on that to win, but definitely has some interesting plays in that deck's finally started to click a little bit for me.
So now that we have NHL back, so you've been playing apparently some drunk Wi-Fi Paladin. Anything else?
Yes. Well, hopefully my Wi-Fi cooperates now that I switched. Yeah, so outside of Drunk Paladin, I've also been playing some Protoss Rogue. That's been a good time, and a nice Paladin counter, by the way. And I've been playing a lot of Warlock. Okay. I started with the original Wheel Warlock when that was first blowing up. And then I wasn't doing so hot the next day or two after it was discovered. So I switched to Starship Warlock. That was also fun, and it felt smoother, but it was a bit too linear for me. So now I am picking up the latest build that was on the Vicious Syndicate site, and that has been a really good time for me.
And for those that can't see the screen, I just want you to know that, well, you all can't see it because this is an audio format, but Lina shook her head very disapprovingly at Protoss Rogue, and I am here for it. For
Of
me,
course.
I've been playing the Frost Unholy Death Knight. I've also been playing a lot of um, the buff Death Knight because that's a lot of fun. Anytime you get the buff Death Knight, it's a lot of fun. I'm apparently not playing it that well because it's supposed to be a really good deck, and I've been playing it kind of average. But then I meant to play my DH list, where it was the one I got from JT Snow that I've talked about a couple times on this, where it's got a lot of dark gifts and it's low to the ground and it's fun. I love that list. I accidentally clicked on Cliff Dive DH instead, and I won with that. And I meant to switch to the other one, and I didn't. And I played that one again. So I've gotten several games now of that, and I'm looking to finish my climb with that. I think I'm like D2, 3 stars, something like that. So we're almost on the edge there, but it's been a lot of fun. It's kind of, I don't know, it's a fun deck. It's not a, I don't think it's a meta break or anything like that, but it's a fun deck. Um, Pilot, what have you been doing outside of Hearthstone this week?
Been enjoying the calm between the storms, I guess, with work. Finished up the winter and musical stuff and had kind of last week off before it starts my stretch of a concert every week to end the school year. So I'm a band director for those of you who don't know. And it's just, we have something different each week with different levels of groups. At least they're kind of spread out with, a week in between, but, just kind of counting down to summer break by checking off concerts constantly. So other than that, haven't been playing a ton of other games. I did jump back into Overwatch a little bit, kind of had the itch to play some of that. So jammed some games there for a little bit and had some fun before the new season rolls over this coming week there. And then had Easter with my family today, where had some fun hanging out, eating good food, playing some board games. So played, my brother brought a couple games. So I got to play Abduction the first time, which is a very simple but fun little game. Learn it in like 10 minutes. Very, very fun. And then played Sagrada, the dice stained glass window game, and then we played a round of Splendor. So had a good time there before coming back home to start a new week.
NHL, seeing as that looks like you have the internet, before we get into what you did, what do you like to be called? Because calling you NHLNJ fan or NHL, or it all sounds awkward. So what should we call you that's a little shorter?
I mean, people, a lot of my friends just say NHL. People within THL know me as Marty. Any of those work, really. Either one or the other.
All right, fantastic. What have you been doing outside of Hearthstone?
So we are technically, quote unquote, on vacation. And what that means is really taking care of paperwork back in the States or certain legal stuff between the two of us, helping out with family and going to medical appointments for certain older individuals and relatives, and just seeing friends. Right. So it's been very busy with a lot of unexpected things going on. Just today, it seems the suspension on our car may have given way a little bit. So we'll be having to go to the mechanic soon. But it's okay. It should be a cheap fix, surprisingly. This weekend has been a lot of fun. We took some family out. They haven't really been out for too long lately. Got some food with them. Today we had Easter celebrations, and Lina actually met some of my cousins that she hadn't met before in our 5 years together. So that was really cool. And it's been just a lot of seeing people, traveling, and good times, really.
Fantastic. And for those that were curious about their legal thing, like can't tell you too much, but when their company goes public, we'll let you know. Lina, what have you been doing outside of Hearthstone?
Well, NHL has pretty much summed it up, but I also want to add on that I've been introducing him to Chilean stuff because I am Chilean and it has been very important for me to share my culture with him. So we went to this Chilean bakery the other day where I made him have a specific sandwich barros luco, as it's called. It's just a really good sandwich with like meat and melted cheese on top. Fantastic sandwich. 10 out of 10. Everyone must have it at least once.
I am for it. It sounds really good just because you get meat and cheese, I'm sold. So we're all good. So can I ask a question and feel free not to answer, but if you are Chilean and you are from New Jersey, how did you end up in Sweden?
I am not from New Jersey. I am actually okay. So I was born in Sweden, fully born in Sweden. I then at 13 moved to Chile. Uh, moved back then to Sweden at 18. Went to university in Sweden and had an exchange year in the States where I met NHL.
Very confusing. And then she dragged me all the way back to her home overseas in Sweden. And now we're both there.
Fantastic. So for me this weekend, it was the weird time. So my son was born on Easter 11 years ago, and today was the odd time where it kind of aligns, and it's actually Easter again and his birthday.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, he doesn't listen, but I will let him know. Um, but so next week is the week we're taking him on his birthday thing. So we'll bring him to the Great Wolf Lodge again. I'm very underwhelmed with Great Wolf Lodge, but it's a kind of a cheap little amusement park water thing that's close by. So even though it's kind of it's still better than I don't know, waiting for the winter to end or whatever. So
Yep.
we'll do it. We'll bring in my grandson too, and that'll be fun. But programming note, since we're talking about it, there is a decent chance that we will not have an episode next week because of me going on this uh, weekend thing where I'm doing that and then having to come back. And even if we record it, I have to find time to edit. That's how it works. There is a small chance that there may be a very important reason to have an episode, but I don't know yet. So we'll see what happens. Keep it vague and interesting. But that's about it. It's time to get to know our guests here. So I'm gonna dive right into the interview. Actually, before we even get to how you started in gaming, how did you guys meet? So you said you went down, you were in New Jersey for a year, you met him. How did you even meet? How'd you guys get together?
We went to the same school, so I actually did an exchange year in like Cornell, where he went.
Yes, I went to school in Western New York. So she had an exchange program thing there. And I was out with some friends, and she was also out at the same time. And we met up and we clicked, and we just kept in touch from there. And then, go figure, a week later, I actually graduated. And she went back. We stayed in touch. Then that August, she actually came and visited, and I basically showed her the entire area and got her to show New York, or got to show New York. We took like I don't know, just 2 weeks of that, basically. From there, we said, yeah, let's see where this goes. Kept in touch, decided to make things official. And then I went over for Christmas. And
Yeah.
yeah, I was very jet lagged. I fell asleep, which was at like, I don't know, what, 6 o'clock there, right?
Yeah.
And I woke up 2 hours
About.
later, came downstairs. Her entire family, all of her extended family, was waiting in the living room to see me. This random guy who they had never met before on Christmas. Great introduction to the family, I must say. But it was good.
No pressure there at all.
Now, I have taken classes out in Western New York at Fort Drum, and I've been out there. There's nothing out in Western New York. So what else? What did you? Anyway, how did you?
Be careful, because the people of Ithaca would be very offended. As they say, Ithaca is gorgeous. So hopefully none of them listen to this.
So is Antarctica, but no one's there. How did you guys get started just in gaming?
We actually have like similar backgrounds, surprisingly. I started when I was like 5, 6 years old, I wanted a PlayStation because I just liked the idea of gaming. Because I had it started with a Game Boy Color when I was like 4 years old. Okay, a Game Boy Color. I don't even remember what the games I had on them, but I loved that. So I wanted to get a proper gaming console, PlayStation, and we got that. My first games were like Gran Turismo, and then Spyro. I fell in love with the Spyro series, so I played through all of those. I still hate Moneybags, by the way, for any OGs that remember. Okay, Moneybags can go eat a bag of money. And from there, I just stuck with newer consoles, and I've been playing all different kinds of games since. As for
Spyro is the one that had Skylanders, right? Because I think I played
yes,
a
the
bunch
Purple
of that.
Dragon.
Okay.
Yes.
And then as for card games, that was a little different. It was also around the same time. I started with Yu-Gi-Oh. Okay, my best friend at the time had the show on, whatever. I wasn't too big on the show, but the cards were really cool to me, and I just picked it up. Didn't really have too many people to play with, so I just learned on my own, tried to get as much as I could, and went from there. I don't play Yu-Gi-Oh anymore because the game is completely different from when I used to play. They've had all different kinds of rule changes. Um, the cards are completely different now. The game is just a different beast, but the nostalgia, I'd say, is still there. So I played in what's called the Golden Age of Yu-Gi-Oh. It's a very specific meta, but those familiar with it will know it was a good time.
How about yourself, Lina?
I was more of I was like the youngest cousin in my family, and I have 5 cousins. Um, so I was more of a sit and watch on the sidelines as my cousins would be gaming until I asked if I could play Spyro, actually, funnily enough. And that's how I started gaming. Spyro was my like go-to. I need to play this. Anytime I went over to my cousins, it was like, "Do you have Spyro on? Can I go play Spyro?" So I just fell in love with the game. One of my older cousins was playing CS:GO at the time too, so I would sit beside him, watch him play, and sneak in a couple of games, or talk into the mic, which not recommended when you're like well 8-year-old kid. But it was fun. That's where I learned mostly. But what really, really got me into gaming, I guess I would say, is The Sims. I have to mention it. Um, the only reason I got my like laptop was because I had to play Sims. I was obsessed with it when I was in my early teens. Sims 2 was where I started. It's just been like the one game I still stick with. Um, as for card games, I too watched my friends play Yu-Gi-Oh! That was like the first game I watched. I did have a collection of Pokemon cards. I can't deny that. But Yu-Gi-Oh! Was like where I saw my friends play. They had like the whole like I don't even know what's called, the arm thing, where you can put multiple cards. I don't know if Marty knows the name.
The dual disc, I had one of those. I
Yes.
loved that
Yes.
thing.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep. So I started my own Yu-Gi-Oh collection. Did I play? No, I had no clue how to play, but I genuinely enjoyed watching my friends play and just get so excited about everything. It was like the best in that time, genuinely.
I always feel super old when someone says, "When I was a teenager, I played Sims, some game like The Sims," and I was like, I think I was like 35 when that game came out. So how did you, NHL? How did you start playing Hearthstone, and then how did that lead to Lena playing Hearthstone?
So that was around Whispers of the Old Gods that I started. I was a freshman in college, and a friend of mine had been begging me for months. He's just been bothering me, pestering over and over. Hey, download Hearthstone. Have you downloaded Hearthstone yet? Have you tried it? Just give it a try, please. And I'm like, no, I don't want to get back into cards. I already did this once. I'm not going to do this again. Because everyone knows once you go down the card gaming rabbit hole, there is no end. So eventually I caved. I didn't have anything. It was like, I want to say, before midterms really started. So there was a bit of a lull. I said, fine. I stuck around. Took about a year to make a proper collection because I was adamantly free to play at the time. And then he stopped playing, but I stuck around. Go figure. So
So then, Lina, how did he get you to play Hearthstone?
Man, so I got together with him, right? He was talking nonstop about Hearthstone. I saw him like active in all the things. No, you were. Don't give me that look. If um, so I said, let me give it a try and downloaded it on my phone. Which first mistake. Tried playing it, didn't understand what I was doing, and I said goodbye. I'm not playing this. But then, how long after? Like
a
a year or so after? Yeah, 2 years. Um, around the time the DK expansion, the DK like class was introduced, that was when I like fully sat down, actually tried the game with NHL's guidance. Honestly, he was like, "Okay, so here's what you can do. This is how the game works, essentially."
And so
But the funny part,
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
all good. The funny part was also that the reason why I even sat down to play the game was because I saw Marty struggle to find someone for the team. So I volunteered myself. Hey, I can join THL. It'll be fine. I'll learn the game as I go.
I was not too excited at the prospect, but to be fair, it did work out and she was enthusiastic, so I said yes.
He volunteered as tribute. That's great.
Yeah,
So
I said, if you don't find anyone else, just, I'm here. It's all good. You can use me.
that's awesome. And just having more people in THL is great. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So you guys are together, and he's helping you learn how to play Hearthstone. Now, back in the day, my wife would play Warcraft, and I was a raid leader for Warcraft, and we brought her along once, and once was it because I mean we would bring her to when we were doing like transmog runs or something like that because that was easy, but she refused to take orders from me. And that was kind of the thing. It's like because I would be like, do this, do this, do this, because as raid leader, that's what you do. And she's like, yeah, I'm not taking orders from you. So how hard is it with you guys playing together? Where I'm sure NHL, you're like, no, 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 do this or do that, and Lena's like, no, 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 I got this. How hard is that being so close together and kind of working off the feedback for each other?
I mean, you want to take this one, Lina?
I feel like you should start because you were the one who had to like guide me.
Yeah, so there's the word guide. I didn't like telling her what to do most of the time, right? I would just say, ask these questions, okay, every time. And usually, when we ask those questions, we would end up on the same thing. The problem was getting Lina to find an answer in the first place, because sometimes she would look at the board state and be like, "What the heck is going on?" So with all that panic, and eventually the rope starting to burn, Lina over here would get a little, I guess, flustered, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. Very flustered.
Yeah. And so the biggest challenge working together was avoiding getting flustered and not getting frustrated from that if it happened. So it wasn't so much, taking orders, just maintaining our cool together. And sometimes it got a little heated and it was a little tougher because like we were stressed in the moment. But there were other times it was just really fun, chill climbs. So
I mean, at the end of the day, for me, it's a game. Anything that is said, I just should not be taken personally. Like, obviously, if he tries to guide me and I go in the completely opposite direction, it will happen. It's fine. It's just, it's the process, you know? You shouldn't take anything too personally. You will make mistakes, but you learn from those mistakes, obviously. And when you have a teacher who is willing and is patient enough to guide you, just don't take it for granted.
I never liked being called a teacher because that implies that only one person is learning from this. I always saw it as us being partners, just playing together and learning together. Because there were times Lina absolutely had the right plan. I was completely lost. Okay, she sometimes would make better plays than me, and that's completely fine. And I would learn things. You're shaking your head, but it has happened.
Fair.
So I don't want her to act as if I was only the teacher or the tutor or the mentor, because that's not the truth. Right? With any game like this, if you're playing with someone, a coach doesn't really have coaching doesn't describe what you're doing. You're working together. Either you're working together or you're backseating someone and telling them what to do. There's no in between. What we did wasn't backseating. We thought the processes out together, we thought out our turns, and we went with what we thought was the best play. And if someone disagreed, then whoever was in control of the mouse had the final say. And that was it.
That's funny. The same thing happens with me and Pilot, where a lot of times if I'm streaming and he's there, he'll be, I hated that play, and why did you should have done this, that, and the other. But there's other times where he'll like fill out something and I'll have made a different play and I'll read what he wrote, and then the next line is actually what you just did was better. So that happens sometimes too. So completely understand. So are there any other games you two play together?
Lina already knows.
Okay, so I have been playing Fortnite for a while because my friend got me into it, and so I have been forcing NHL to play it with me.
Been a good time though.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah. We get our victory royales usually every 1 to 2 nights. It's been especially easy now that we're on NA. NA is free, by the way. You guys don't know how to play your shooters. EU is where all the serious try-hard kids play. But yeah, it's been a good time. We've been playing other games too, though. Right, Lina?
Split Fiction. Split Fiction has been like the game. Also made by Swedes. I have to point that out.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. I know it's one of the highest rated games of the year, but it's for very good reason. It's one of the best co-op games I've played. Not just because I get to play with my partner. It's genuinely been a blast. Like, you can pick up and play with just about anyone, even if they haven't played games before. That's the best part. It's so well done. It doesn't matter how much experience you have. And you can tell that they've put so much care into this game. Mechanically, story-wise, even the dialogue. This is a mild spoiler, but there's a part where you're on a motorcycle and you're getting chased, right? So one person is controlling the motorcycle, the other is trying to defuse a bomb that was just planted on you, right? And so I'm driving the motorcycle and Lena's panicking behind me, trying to figure out how to defuse this bomb. And Lina, maybe it's better you explain what happened.
Oh man, no. You essentially have a phone in your hand, and so you have to first unlock the phone. You have to then say that you're not a bot, like you do in real life with like the find the pictures that are like the correct ones. You then go to another stage, and there's so many stages. At one point, you have to accept the terms and services, but you have to read through them all before you can accept them. It was God. I was genuinely panicking, going, "We're gonna blow up. This is not happening."
My favorite captcha is the one that has a picture of the ship of Theseus.
Yes. Yes, I think I remember that one. They actually had that in the game, but looking back, it's hilarious. But at the time, it was super stressful for both of us.
Gotta do it.
Yeah, it's been a great time, that game. And if anyone listening is just hesitant or just is looking for a co-op game, it's genuinely one of the best I've played, or we've played, really, in general, too.
So from the beginning, I saw that you guys had some overlap where you were both playing Drunk Paladin, but then when you started talking about playing Protoss Rogue, we saw the disapproval in Lina. So, what are you guys' favorite classes and style of play, and how much does that overlap?
Okay, I used to say that I was very much like aggressive decks. Aggressive decks, that was my thing. We later realized I just like proactive, like decks. Anything that like does something. I don't like just how do I put it? I don't like just waiting. Like playing one card and then wait. I like any deck that's like go, go, go. We have to move on. We have to do this. We have to do that. But I also hate math. Don't get me wrong. I can't count. I can't count. So anything that's active that doesn't involve too much math, I'm good.
I feel like you just called out Wicked good about how to, but that's okay. How about you? How about yourself, NHL?
Well, I just want to say, Lina's favorite part about rotation: no more defile. Don't have to count anymore. But for
There's still
me,
threads.
this is true.
Oh God! Don't. Okay, I played the the one deck that had the threads, and I was like, okay, let me try it. Used threads once, failed massively. I was just like, oh no, I messed this up. How do I mess this up?
That was back when it was 1 mana. It was miserable. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I consider myself more of a spike, so I just like good decks. But also, I'm kind of like Lina too, where I like things where I have agency, right? Agency is probably the best word I can use for it, because as long as I can play my cards, then I'm happy, right? So, like I said, with Rogue, I have a chance to swing the board against certain decks and take over the game and do my fun thing. With Paladin, the same reason Lina likes Paladin, we get to play a ton of cards, we get initiative, and we pressure the game. Right? I've realized over time, I don't care what I'm playing, as long as the game ends. There's a finite end, and I'm not trying to just waste my opponent of all their resources. I have a way to win, and I know there's a way I can get there. That's all I care about. So, again, I spoke about Wheel Warlock. Wheel Warlock is a bit weird because you'd expect with Kil'jaeden that I'm just kind of sitting there playing big minions. I mean, it's cool, but like that's not why I play the deck either. Wheel is a really cool card. Wheel of Death. Wheel of Death. I always get it confused between Wheel of Doom and Wheel of Death for some reason. But Wheel of Death is a card, and that gives me a finite win condition if my opponent tries to stall and waste my time. You know? The fact of the matter is, most of us have probably played Hearthstone on the toilet. I don't want to take 30 minutes sitting on the toilet trying to finish my game, you know? So, as long as I can finish the game, I'm happy.
So we found out that NHL here, Marty is not a fan of attrition priests. But so I'm gonna. So I've learned a lot tonight. So I've played against NHL in THL more than once, and he's over in Europe. So he said, so I'm gonna. He said, "Hey, I'm actually over in the States this week. Why don't we do an episode like this month? Why don't we do an episode now?" I was like, "That's great." I, for the longest time, thought that you were somebody from Europe, and that I was confused at why you were so specifically a New Jersey Flyers fan or whatever it might be, whatever that.
Oh no, you commit a cardinal
no.
sin. Oh
Okay,
no.
well, I
we
don't
are
follow
the
the NHL.
Devils.
Okay, the
We are the
Devils.
Devils. Yes.
You're the
The
Devils fan, and
Flyers
I
are
thought
from Philly.
and I thought you were coming over the States to see your girlfriend, because I thought that, like, because I in my mind you were somebody that was a pain in my butt, because it's like, oh hey, I can't play at normal times because I'm sleeping. So I thought that you were. So we learned a lot today. This has been great. But so you are you are a part of THL. I believe you're part of the board, or at least you're somewhere involved in the administration of THL. So, for
Yes.
those that don't know, what is THL and how did you get started with THL?
So THL, or Team Hearth League, is a team-based league. Well, we can say that now, thanks to our hat, by the way, who is also former THL. Great guy. Would recommend listening to him sometime.
We've had him on the show.
Yes, definitely check out that episode if you haven't. So Hat used to run THL, and basically it's teams of 3 to 5 players. We offer a ton of different ways to play. We usually do like best of 5 conquest. You can do similar to Masters Tour. We have other ways to play where we make it so that players who have never hit Legend will play others of equal skill. or similar skill. And by making this all in teams, you get to learn from a ton of differently skilled players that are all around to help you and improve both your game and your friendships. And it's really cool. Hat, as I said, was the one before me that took care of this. He left the league mostly to me and the rest of the board. Mako takes care of a lot of the community and financial stuff. 2-star Mako, also a great person. And I do all of the system stuff. So I take care of setting up schedules. We use spreadsheets to handle a lot of the matchups. We do archetyping and work with Donkey to identify deck lists and all that. And it's a whole organization which is a lot of fun and a lot of different kinds of people. You meet so many different kinds, and it's really cool. So
It sounds like you're the reason why it takes 10 minutes for my band to go in before we can actually play.
Correct.
it is.
I'm
It is me. I see your ban and I go, "Whoa, I can't wait to hold this and make you wait." So
No. You mentioned that you guys played. The whole reason you started playing Hearthstone was so you could be on a team with him. Do you guys do
Yeah.
duos when there's a season? Like you guys still on the same team? Is that still a thing or?
Yeah. Duos is the only thing that we played like fully together, I think, except for the one time we were on the team together.
yes, and that wasn't even originally the plan for us.
No.
Our hat, who we mentioned, was going to make us an extra team because we had an uneven number of teams in one of our leagues. And so Hat was like, "I'm going to make a team. Do you want to play with me?" And I'm like, "Sure. Sure." He says, "As long as you captain and you handle the stuff, I don't care. We'll have fun with it." I went crazy looking for people because it was last minute. And eventually I gave up because the skill level that we had. Okay. So in this specific league, we call Legacy. It's the original THL league. We have what's called PR, or player rating. And basically they work as salaries. So just like any pro sport, THL has a salary cap in Legacy. And so our salary cap didn't allow us to get a very high skilled player. We needed either someone new or someone who hadn't hit Legend much at all before. Okay, that's completely fine, by the way. These players are still very viable and important within the THL structure, but that's what we needed from our team. And I looked far and wide, and I couldn't find anyone, and neither could Hats. So my partner here, Lina, who is smiling, waiting for me to mention her, came over and said, "I volunteer as tribute." And so I was hesitant at
Throw
first.
me to the wolves.
I'm assuming you had just watched the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
Yes.
Of course. I grew up on that. That was my thing.
I was like 40 when they came out, but keep going.
Careful, otherwise I'm going to expose you for your Twilight stuff.
Hold your horses. Hello. We still live together.
Anyways, I couldn't find anyone, so I said, "You know what?"
So Lina was sparkling.
Yes, she was. She was. And so you know what we did? We started up Hearthstone on her 2-year-old account that had been completely untouched for most of those 2 years, and said, "Let's get started."
On my old MacBook, by the way.
Hearthstone
You're a
barely
Mac player
runs.
too. Oh my god.
No, I was. No. Hold on. Hold on. I was a Mac player. I didn't know better. I know better now.
Yeah, it was.
Fair enough.
We went through the settings for quite a while trying to make it run at even like 20 FPS. It was painful, to say the least.
THL is doing a 30 for 30 now. So, because apparently this is the 30th season and the 10th year of THL. So, go into that a little bit if you don't mind.
Okay, so THL is really old, and it's older than I've been playing Hearthstone for, actually. which is really cool. And I know a lot of people may not know about it. And it's a pretty tightly knit community with a lot of friends, and obviously you guys on Bread and Butter know of it because you are also involved in the community, by the way. Great addition, too. Tito and Plyet have been wonderful players to have around and talk to and such. But because of that, another board member, former board member, his name is Donde, had always given these, or just spitballed these crazy ideas. And one of them, a few years back, was 30 for 30. Basically, just like the ESPN series, where we have 30 articles on different things throughout the league's history. Right? So, Donde's already gone. As I said, he's been pretty busy with other things. He doesn't play Hearthstone anymore, but he still chimes in within THL circles every now and then. I said, you know what? Let's see if we can give this a try. I'm going to write up a bunch of possible topics, and we'll see if we can get some interest. Turns out we got a lot. Okay, Hat and Donde and others helped suggest some people to talk to from THL past, and we reached out to them and got them on board to write these different pieces about THL history. And now we have 30 articles coming out. We have 5 so far that came out. 30 articles covering all different kinds of things throughout THL. Individual players. There was one about THL's oldest player, Jim Philos, this week, who is in his mid to late 60s, I believe. He got into Hearthstone because his son introduced it to him, and even after his son has quit, he still plays because of the THL community. We had ones on team dynasties and players who have come through THL and how they got together, how some of them would start in high school and then they would join up and said, hey, this game's pretty cool. Next thing you know, they're beating, other pros in this league and winning championships. And there's a ton more coming, and it's really exciting and a really cool way to celebrate a community that has been around for so long.
So I have a question with that's hit a preamble. So there was a 30 by 30 on ESPN about Chris Herron, who was a basketball player for the Boston Celtics, who had a drug thing and whatever. He was from Fall River, and he had his brother in the episode. And the brother is somebody that has actually ejected me from multiple rec leagues of basketball. So it was kind of like, and I've actually played against Chris a couple times at local park down in Somerset, Massachusetts. Not that I was anywhere close to his level, but it was cool to be on the same court with him. But it was really kind of like, not every episode of 30 by 30 is all, sunshine and roses. And I know that THL has been through a journey over its history. Is this just the 30 for 30? Is this a celebration of just everything positive, or are we going to talk about some of the things that happened along the journey? And feel free to just say, please cut this, or we don't want to talk about that or whatnot. But
no, that's a really important question to ask, I think. Because the truth is, you do have to talk about some of the uglier things that happen in these organizations, because, it's just a fact. And I spoke to Hat about this, and the way that we agreed that this could best be handled is by not ignoring those things, but by looking at them from a very general and high level perspective, where certain things happened, they were controversial, and that's fair. This is part of THL, and from that, we have become a more connected community and stronger organization. Okay, I have one piece that's scheduled to come out soon that kind of touches on these things. There was a boycott in THL many years ago, before I came around, where a certain incident happened involving harassment. Players involved were taken care of. They were reprimanded, suspensions were given out, bans were given out, and some players didn't think that went far enough. And so they went on a boycott. And that's an important part of THL's history, because at the time, THL's culture was considered a bit more toxic than it is now. Right now, a lot of people know it as a big, welcoming community where we have celebrations of different marginalized parts of the community. For example, we do stuff with the Trevor Project every June. There's a piece on that, by the way, which is very cool. Mako does a fantastic job every year. We also have a blind community that's involved in THL, for instance. But years ago, none of this would have happened because it was much more focused on a specific archetype, a specific player archetype, I'd say. And because of that, the league had a hard time growing. So ignoring the parts where the league got past these things wouldn't be doing 30 for 30 justice.
I'm glad to hear it because since I've joined THL, it's all been sunshine and rainbows. But I've heard allusions to things from the past, and I've always been curious. Like I have the high level kind of view, and I think that's what we're going to. And I think that's kind of a good place to live it. We don't need to say, "Hey, yeah, no, Bob talked to Susan, and he said this thing and that thing." We don't need to get that level, but it's good to definitely know kind of like where things went and how things are gone and stuff like that. So I'm glad that you guys are actually doing this, and they're going to mention that because I think a lot of people need to know kind of like where the history is and why it got to the place where it is now and why it's cool, and why we have like Tyler May, but she also still goes by Ty for her handle. She hasn't changed it yet. So
yes, you're right.
But anyway, that's great. So if somebody wants to get involved in THL, the season just started. Is it too late? Do they have to wait till next season? Because a lot of times what happens is if you try to wait for next season, you kind of miss the thing again. So how do people get involved in THL right now if they want to?
So it's funny you say that. I'm going to cover your answer or your question in two parts. The first part, how do you get in? It's very easy. Just join the Discord and sign up. Once people see you're signed up, then captains will know that you're around and they can ask you to sub in. And then you get some playtime. Even if it's not for the full season, then you can try it out for yourself and see if it's something that you enjoy. Second, you mentioned that some people will sign up in the off season, and then by the time the new season comes around, you forget. That's something that we've been actively working on, and I could say personally has been a goal of mine to fix, where people are not ignored for signing up at the wrong time or being new. Every off season before the season begins, I go and I look through all the free agents and I send them a message on Discord. Hey, do you want to play? I see you signed up. If you don't answer me, that's fine. I'll just take it as a no. But if you do, just get back to me. And whoever gets back to me, I set them up on a team. And Lina over here actually helps me a lot with that and captains a few of those teams.
Yeah, I get contacted a lot myself. I don't know about you, Pilot, but I get contacted a lot when THL season's about to start. Hey, you want to join a legacy team? Hey, I see you don't have this team, and you guys are very active. I'm like, I have duos and pro. I think I have enough because I actually have things going outside. But yeah, get yourself in the Discord. And I actually found my way into THL by just being asked. I was involved in other communities, and people were like, "Hey, you want to play Hearthstone for fun with against other people? Let's do it." And that's how I got into THL. Was I was actually invited from another Discord and all that. So it's a great. It is a really good community. Everyone's there. It doesn't matter your skill level. There's all kinds of different places to play. I mean, there are some leagues maybe you should wait until you've actually played the game a few times before you join. But there's also other leagues like we said that like Lina joined Legacy with a certain she just started and you were able to join in. So I think that's great. So I have one final question and then we gotta get to the meat of the episode here. But why is Brushy Tuna allowed to be a team?
Right? Right?
Okay, I think we need to explain to the audience what Brushy Tuna is as a team.
We've had multiple people from Brushy Tuna on this podcast, by the way. So Ron has
Watch all
been
those
a future
episodes.
episode. Yep.
So, Brushy Tuna is basically the 2016 Golden State Warriors equivalent of a THL team. And what they did is they got multiple pro players. Ron, Mexico, by the way. Ron, Mexico, got multiple pro players in McBanterface and for some time Pocket Train, world champion Pocket Train. Yeah, that guy. And said, hey, this is our team. The rest of THL is going to have to compete with us. Now, you see, I would make a case they actually haven't been the best pro team of all time. That would go to another esports organization, Hype Horizon, but that's for another time.
I was a member
Basically,
of Hyper Horizon for a while.
yeah, so you might know the pro team then, with Gamer RVG and D Money. Yep. Yeah, that team was busted.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason why we allow Brushy Tuna to have a team is so that Ron can choke in the playoffs as much as possible. Because nothing is sweeter in THL than seeing Ron choke and fall short of another championship.
It's been funny because every time I've had an opportunity, like I've played Ron multiple times, and
Mhm.
I've done okay against him. I don't think I've ever completed him, but I've taken him 5 games. I took Nobibity to 5 games a couple weeks ago. I was very happy about that too. He's not a brushy tuna, but that was still I was happy about that. But every time I'm supposed to play like Big Banner Face or Pocket Train or something like that, it always ends up being like right before they're about to do like a world's appearance, so they don't show up, and I get like some sort of substitute, and I'm always like, because you want to play these guys even if you know you're going to get your face wiped against the floor with them, but it's just like, oh, I'm going to play Big Banner Face this week, and then it's like, nope, you're going to play like Bob 3229786. You're like, well, okay, I guess Bob will be fine, and it is what it is. But anyway, Pilot, we have an awesome main topic, so why don't you dive into it?
Yeah. So, kind of wanted to build our main topic based off of the experience of our guest, and they talked about how Lina got started in Hearthstone, jumping into a competitive environment from the very get go, and learning the game in a very different way than most of us do. So, you explained it really well when we were talking back and forth beforehand, setting up the episode on kind of the approach that you all took, with being in a team-based thing. But do you want to explain a little bit of that to our listeners?
Well, so it is intimidating to jump into a team headfirst, never play the game, having like all these people have some certain expectations. Hey, we have to win a couple of matches to like get the points, right? But genuinely, the team starting, our hat was my captain. Genuinely great captain, very supportive, very like, you got this, it's okay, we will do better next time. Like, no matter what, my team was so supportive, and it was so nice to just have this backup of like, it's okay, you got this, we'll figure it out. Do you need help with any games? Just send over your match and we will go through it. Like, it was genuinely such a good experience of just supportiveness, and just they were so incredibly nice to someone who just started the game. I don't know if Marty want to add anything to that, because he was also part of it, obviously.
Yeah, that whole team was a hodgepodge of people. Hat was very short on time to put everything together. Lina coming in and saving the day for us was huge. But one of the biggest challenges early on too, because we had started so late. Lina didn't just have to learn the game; she had to build a collection. That was
That's
something that,
right.
yeah, that was a big problem too. So one of the problems that we faced, and Lina can confirm, the beginner ranks. Yeah, so I don't know how you deal with this as a company, but some players would pay some money to get a bigger collection, and that meant that they had full meta decks against these other players with basic cards. And poor Lena over here, didn't really have much at all. She had basic mage.
Broke college student.
Yeah, at the time, broke college student, and they would just wipe the floor with her. And I'm looking at this and thinking, this isn't fair. This isn't fun. Hat also agreed, and so we all agreed collectively that she would skip the ranks and take the packs that it gave her for skipping the ranks. So we did that, and then we tried building decks from there.
I mean, to be fair, it is not really expected that someone's going to start playing Hearthstone and start playing against competitive people within like a week. Like that's
Yeah,
probably
but
not
yeah,
in the game plan.
no, that is completely like I agree. But going on ladder with like 5 cards, you can't go on ladder with 5 cards. Like you have to have a collection to even like make it to ladder. There's no way to play.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was a huge challenge. Just not even just out of election's sake, but for Lina's morale, right? Like every third game feeling unwinnable. It's not fun, and you're not going to be able to learn anything from it. Your soul just gets crushed. So we agreed that wasn't really a viable path, and we just skipped it all and went straight to Bronze 10, where things were a bit more up to speed.
Yeah. So we're gonna kind of take this week. I think Tito mentioned it at the beginning. Last week we talked a lot about improving our play, things that kind of do as you've started playing. You know that this is something that you want to get better at, but kind of looking at a different approach to that very beginning of starting off through the fundamentals. A lot of us, when we start out, myself included, we kind of grab a deck and we just play and have fun and figure out the deck that we're playing, and we don't think about much else, especially depending on how much card game experience you have beforehand. It had been years since I had played much for card games before jumping into Hearthstone, so that wasn't something that I was really focused on. And there's a different way that you can also kind of go about that, and it sounds like it's the way that you guys did, and that's really focusing in on the fundamental play. It's a lot less about what deck you're playing and figuring that out, but what are the fundamentals of the game that then transfer over to all these different sorts of decks, and especially as you're trying to build up a collection and just be able to make 4 different decks to bring for a conquest lineup. So did you have something? All right. So a few things that we talked about that are some of these fundamentals that we feel new players can jump into are one of the big ones is the matchup rules. Both of them talked about kind of their preferred deck style and play style, and that leads into those matchup rules of we hear the overarching ideas of aggro, control, mid-range, combo, all of those, and you have those general terms, but a lot of things also get very blurred, especially in modern Hearthstone, I feel. And one big thing that I think of, and I know that this came from Ridiculous Hat, hearing him say it many, many times on Coin Concede and in their Discord, of figuring out who's the beatdown. In every matchup, there is someone who is trying to end the game first. It doesn't matter what the decks are. It could be 2 aggro decks. It could be 2 control decks. Who is trying to end the game first, or who has to end the game first in order to win? And you have to figure out what decides those roles and how your win conditions kind of adjust that. NHL, you talked a lot about Wheel Warlock. Oh, go ahead, Tito.
Especially because that can differ from game to game, even if you're playing the same deck.
Yeah. So you had talked a lot about Wheel Warlock. That's a controlling style deck that beats up on other control decks because it says, I play this card and you have 5 turns to figure it out and win the game. And that adjusts those roles to where something like a Blood Death Knight, something like a Control Warrior has to switch gears and become that beatdown role sometimes in order to end the game first.
Yeah, I'd say just figuring out those roles and the dynamics of it is one of the coolest parts of card games in general. It gives layers to the same strategy over and over. You're not doing the same thing every game, even though it's the same cards, right? Like with a deck of 52 cards, your strategy is always going to be the same in most games regardless, right? You just play your odds. With the more complicated card game or more complex card game like Hearthstone, these changed because there's different decks, and even though the matchups can have their own nuances and stuff over and over as you play them, you're still going to find something different the moment you face a different deck, and that's really cool.
Any thoughts, Lina?
I'm just thinking about how I started with like 4 decks. I every week. I didn't really get to like sit down with just one deck and try to figure out how that one deck played into all the others, right? It was constantly just moving. It was 4 different classes, 4 different decks. It feels hard to manage, but it's not as hard as you might think, because again, I had a partner who was willing to sit down and help me through it. But what I did was, for each deck I had, I would take little notes. I would have my little notebook where I would write down, this deck does this. This is the like important card that you want to highlight. This is the card you want to draw. This is the play style. This is how it works. So I had my fundamentals on the page. I knew what my deck did in that sense. Whenever I tried to face another person, it was like, okay, so how does this deck work against my deck? Right? It was just constant note taking of like, what do I do in this situation? One of the like things that we also did was, since I tend to get so flustered whenever I play, because we have time, it has to move on, the rope comes, is I needed to plan ahead. I couldn't just sit there and just wait for anything to happen. I had to plan ahead. And by having the like plan A, plan B, plan C, I could just look at my notes and go, okay, I have these cards, I can do this.
Head. How flustered did you get the first time NHL sat you down in front of like a matrix generated on HS Replay and said, okay, this is what we're keeping, this is what we're banning? And why?
Oh, man. Oh, man. The first time I had that, I was just like, why? What? Why are we doing that? What is happening? What is going on? What is the point of it all? No, but like he sat me down and was like, okay, this is usually how it goes. This card does this, and that is why we're keeping it. And so I would just constantly ask questions. I would be like, okay, so we're keeping this card for what reason? Like, there's never a dumb question. Like, ask all the questions. If you have someone next to you, ask all the questions. Ask why they think the way they do.
It's funny you say that, because half the time you would answer your own question not even 2 seconds later. I'm ready to answer, and then you're just, it's this, I remember now. And there were times I wouldn't have even explained it to you. You just knew intuitively after a while, which was pretty helpful, but also sometimes I would be there like, do you really need me? Do you really want me sitting here right now? Are you sure you want to play together? So.
I mean, it helps that the cards kind of describe what they do. I like the little text underneath. Very helpful.
Be careful, because depending on who you asked, they don't always follow what they say. I do think there was some debate on, we've already talked about this card before, Wheel of Doom. There has been debate on that. And technically it was nerfed because of the text, in a way. So
the real nerf to that, though, was the Reno. The changes to Reno really changed that, at least early on.
You're right. You are right. Losing Reno did kill that deck.
Yeah.
But also, it's Reno, so who cares?
So, yeah, I mean, I feel like, I was thinking of this a lot while you were talking through the interview. Just, it's always amazes me how much we can learn just from hearing a different perspective of how many different ways there are to play this game. So, Tito and I have co-opted before, or even just watching streamers or going through and hearing other people talk about their replays. It's just like, I didn't think of that. It's nowhere near the play that I would have made, and they both can be justified. And you can make an argument for different things, and that's the really interesting thing of trying to figure out, well, what's the long-term impacts of all of those to, find the quote unquote possible best play, and sometimes there is one, sometimes there isn't one, and that's a really fun thing about the dynamic of this game.
Yeah.
And there's also the time when you're like, "Hey, Pilot, have you looked at my replays yet?" No. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So I'll get to those. I don't think anyone
Eventually.
responded to mine either, so it's okay. So we're on the same page.
But that was one of the things I did at the start too. I would ask for replays from my team, and then I would sit down with Marty, and we would go through them, and he'd be like, "Okay, before I press play, what would you do? What would you do here?" And then I would say an answer, and then let's say the replay we're watching does something completely different. We'd be like, okay, so why did they do that?
Mm-hmm.
It's just so helpful to see other players play. It sounds so dumb and like so basic, but it does help.
But it doesn't even like you may have made a decision to say I would do X and player did Y. It doesn't mean player X did anything wrong or Y did play anything wrong. They're just two different approaches. And it's like, hey, sometimes it's the wrong play, sometimes it's the right play, but sometimes it's just, yeah, that's a different way you could go.
You know what's really funny? When we watched our own replays and then we would call out what we wanted to do, and then it turns out we did something completely different.
Oh man, that happened a lot at the start for me.
It did.
Mm-hmm.
It did. Going back and seeing those replays weeks and even months later, yeah, you can see the growth in real time.
It's so easy to do. Because I know I'm guilty of it, but I don't do it with a camera on. So normally it's me calling out Tito when he's streaming. He'll talk through the right thing and say, I'm going to do this because next turn I'm going to do this, and then the turn after I'm going to do this, and then he plays the card that he said he was going to play in 3 turns because that's the one on the top of your mind. And it happens all the time. It's just human nature of, yeah, I'm going to do this, and you get distracted and you distract yourself, and then you make the wrong play. It happens.
So many times to us too. We go through an entire play all turn, and then the rope starts, and we see green card and play green card.
Yep.
And we're looking at him like, did we play that?
Man.
What did we just do? And then we just have to reevaluate, but it's okay. It happens.
So speaking of playing cards, one thing that I liked as a fundamental that came up also in the interview was the idea of initiative. I think that that's a great way to describe a lot of decks that we typically describe as aggro. Something that is initiative focused, to where you are the one making the plays and putting the pressure on, and doing that in the right ways. You can play cards and you can throw cards left and right, but you want to be doing things that are affecting the game and pushing forward your game plan. So there is, I'm not 100% sure where this came from. It feels like a hatism because I've seen it also in Coin Concede all the time. But the rules of aggro and initiative of spend your mana on cards that affect the game state, and then in turn setting up plays for the next few turns, because you can play all these 1 mana cards, you can keep all these 1 mana cards in your mulligan, and then turn 4 you're out of stuff to do. So finding ways to progress your game plan while also knowing that you need to keep going a few more turns beyond or be setting up lethal is huge for learning initiative, in my opinion.
So oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, so it's funny you say it mostly fits with aggro, because I think Lina will agree. One of her favorite decks was a very initiative-focused deck, but it wasn't traditionally aggro.
Mm-hmm.
In Rage Warrior, the fire spell in Rage Warrior.
Yep.
Lina loved that deck, and it was a very dynamic deck where you would have some reactive plays, but the way it worked is you never lost initiative through those reactive plays, because it always gave you a board and it put you ahead. And like you said, describing those like planning 2-3 turns ahead so you didn't run out of cards. This wasn't just about running out of cards. It was also controlling it so that your opponent wouldn't have a board and you would be way ahead. And then you have an even bigger board and you do a lot of cool things. So I wouldn't say initiative focused decks are limited towards that aggressive playstyle, there's a lot of other cool stuff that you can do to just take control of the game, not in a traditional control reactive sense, but in a very forward way, I'd say, where it appealed to our playstyles, especially Lina's, where you were in control of the game and you would pressure the opponent while also playing defensively, which I think is a really cool dynamic myself.
I think a really important part for me was, as a beginner, finding what I liked, so I would still find the game fun. Because no one wants to start out a game and be like, "Ugh, I have to play this." Like, that doesn't work for anyone.
So I think that in my history, when I started getting better at Hearthstone, was realizing, and I forget who taught me this, but sometimes you play the card that has extra value without the extra value. Sometimes it's like, well, the right play is, hey, I have this 4/5 that enables this combo later, but you know what? You got to play that 4/5 now for tempo because otherwise you're going to die because you're not going to do that combo later anyway, even if you hold that card. So just play that 4/5 now on turn 4 and get some pressure on the board and contest or whatever it is. And that's one of the hardest lessons to learn is to ignore the text on the card, look at the numbers, and understand the game state and go from there.
You know, something that Marty used to ask me all the time? Why won't you play that card? Why won't you play that card? Give me a reason why. And whenever I was trying, I was like, but I could use it. No, I need to do it now. Don't hesitate. Just why won't you play that card? That was like one of the most like fundamental things that stuck with me. Like, why won't you play it?
Yeah. You need a reason to play something, and you need a reason not to play it. It's not just about holding and being greedy. If you're floating mana and you have things to do in your hand, ask yourself, if you're not doing anything, why aren't you doing anything? And realizing that you have to ask the question both ways is something I, at first, didn't understand in Hearthstone or many card games at all. I do now, but it was one of the toughest lessons to realize I need to ask myself the question, no matter what I'm doing or if I'm not doing anything at all. And Lina, seeing that early on, helped her really improve her play very quickly. She got a lot better way faster than me, that's for sure.
Yeah, it kind of leads into the next idea of, we've talked about initiative, but there are also times where you have to be reactive in this game. And again, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are a controlled deck, but depending on whatever the game state is, you're going to have to react to what your opponent does or decide if there's a reason to react to it or to ignore it. Sometimes there are reasons for both, and you have to figure out in the moment what the best thing is. As someone who plays normally more initiative focused decks, I'm not a huge control deck player, is I'm looking at, okay, do I have to deal with this or can I set up lethal next turn and make it their problem? So that's always one of the questions I enjoy asking myself is, what can I do to make this most frustrating and most awkward for my opponent? And when you're on the other side of it, that's where the reactive stuff comes in. It's deciding, okay, how do I figure this out? Or how do you get yourself to a spot where you're not in that realm? It goes to all other sorts of decks too, and different game states. So where, one thing that popped in my head as I was trying to think of this is reacting to targeted draw. We have a lot of targeted draw in Hearthstone right now, and depending on what you know that they have, that could alter what you're doing. I feel like right now the meta decks might not have quite as much of it, other than maybe Cliff Dive Demon Hunter and Zarimi Priest to an extent. But those are types of things to where Zarimi Priest, you've seen Scale Replica, and you've seen a couple of them, you have a pretty good guess that they're getting really close to that Zarimi turn, and you need to figure out what you're going to do, because as soon as that comes down, you're done. Game is over. So those are things that, you're not reacting to a thing that they put on board, but you're reacting to the new concept and the new information of the game state that is there.
I'm really hating that Zarimi Priest, by the way, because it's like, how many times have you played like a really good game with whatever deck you're playing, and then it's just like, oh, here comes the one that makes your dragons cost 1, and there's the there's Ysera, and there's like the 4 other things. Here are those dragons. There's the Remy. It's like it doesn't matter. And I get it. I should have beat him before that. I needed to be the beat down in that scenario. However, it's like sometimes it's like, oh, I played this game really well, and I'm setting myself up, and then it just doesn't matter. So, yeah, no, I hate that deck.
I
It's
love
funny.
Zerimi.
Oh no. Oh, gonna get us kicked off early. But
My bad.
it's funny. It's funny you mentioned like reacting in the game developing because one of the things that we discussed, um, so because Lina was thrown to the wolves, she didn't really have a lot of time to learn archetypes early on. Okay, and at lower ranks, decks aren't really that refined either, so it can be a bit difficult to identify what the player is playing. So one of the things we had to learn is to figure out what cards an opponent is playing and why they may be playing it, what types of cards they are, right? So for instance, Vicious Slither Spear, okay, very popular 1-drop, right? But I think we would all agree it's a very proactive 1-drop. So the kinds of decks that are playing it usually want to put pressure early, and they want to transition to something that is, with more pressure later in the game. So you already know that it's not going to be a reactive deck. They have a very proactive game plan. And depending on the deck that you're playing, that may mean that they are the beatdown and you're not. So that was a big thing for Lena and I, just figuring out what the opponent was trying to do. It's just as important as figuring out what you're trying to do. Because everyone has something they want to do, and whoever figures that out first has the information advantage. And that's huge. So that's another form of reacting, as well as you described, developing and understanding plays and where the game is going. Just being able to figure out what the other person is doing. It took a few weeks, but Lina got very good at it. There were definitely a few times where the archetype, Lina had no idea what it was, but she still played correctly because she knew that the opponent was trying to do some certain playstyle. And the fact that she's able to do that makes her a very strong player who may not need as many games on a certain deck as others would because she's so focused on what the opponent is doing. And sometimes that's something that sounds counterintuitive, but is a very core skill, in my opinion, when you're playing these card games. So
I think it also helped that I started out in THL, where the whole point was I need to beat my opponent 3 times at least.
in 3
So
different
I
ways,
need
by
to,
the way.
yeah, I need to know what my opponent is like trying to do here.
Worst is when you get them down to 1 health, and you're just like, okay, fine, I'm gonna get them down to 1 health, and then they heal up, and you're like, well, I guess that's the end of my day.
We're gonna be rich. Yeah, just identifying that stuff and learning how to react based on that was a huge deal and one of the fundamentals that we focused on for quite a while. So sometimes it doesn't matter because you're playing, weapon rogue, and all you want to do is hit them in the face no matter what. But other times, yeah, it really matters, and that's an important skill to have.
Yeah. It's also important to not do what I did about a week ago and stop evaluating what they're doing after you think you figured it out. I had a game where I thought that I was in a double frost unholy Death Knight mirror match, just because I hadn't seen any other cards that told me otherwise. And then I got blown out by a Wild Pyro and Poison Breath because I'm like, they don't have anything that can clear this. It's a mirror match. I'm setting this up. I set up lethal and totally got blown out because I did not see it coming. So it happens. I think when I looked back through, I think I overlooked 1 or 2 cards that I assumed were just a weird inclusion, which does happen. People do not play the same 30 cards in the same archetype. You're going to see some cards that you weren't expecting to see. Sometimes it means that it's just they're playing around with different cards. Sometimes it means, wait, is this actually the deck I think it is? Especially a class like Death Knight where there's 10 cards that are in pretty much every single Death Knight deck because they're just good cards.
I will say, whenever I see an unusual card, I get scared.
Yep.
Unusual cards mean either this person has no idea what they're doing, or this person about to wipe the floor with me and knows everything. All the intricacies of their deck. Both are equally terrifying.
Yep.
Usually I see one card that I'm like, wait, what is this? I see the second card that I'm like, what is this? I'm like, Pilot, you need to see this.
Yeah. I saw a lot of interesting cards around 2000, rank 2000 this past week. I'm like, what is happening? Like, knew the archetype, and the last like 10 cards were not anything that I expected to see. So very, very interesting pocket meta that I ran into. So, and one other thing that we've kind of talked about a little bit here, and this goes beyond just beginner fundamentals, but this is all levels of play, and that is the mental side of the game. We talk about ladder anxiety all the time. We've mentioned, the anxiousness that comes up as soon as the rope starts to burn down. That, I don't know, for me, that was just APM practice as I was learning, because I realized I was thinking too much or got distracted and didn't realize it was my turn. Thanks to my cats that get in the way. But there's a lot of things that can cause that kind of stress in the game. I think most players have had that, first moment where they really realize, like, oh, I'm in a different spot play-wise than I thought that I was. And we kind of have that anxiousness of, these players are a lot better than I thought that I think I am, and I'm not sure what to do. For me, I had that when I first started playing, the first time I got stuck around gold rings, to where I was hard stuck at gold for like a month and a half before I finally made that legend push. And then the first time that I pushed into top 1K, and I ran into, I think, 3 or 4 pro players in a row of names that I recognized on master tours. And I'm like, oh, this is a different beast. And I got the floor wiped with me, just absolutely destroyed. Like, this is terrifying. And learning how to kind of deal with that is something that we all have to go through. And I know this is kind of very wide open because it's different for every person. So that's why we all have to kind of figure out what our things are and what stresses us in the game, and how to not let that affect our play, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, my body doesn't know the difference between being chased and playing a Hearthstone game. Like, my heart is pounding, I am sweating, I don't know what I'm doing. So I can start out with, for me, I've mentioned this before, is note taking. I need to know what my deck does. I need to know what I'm doing. Also, planning ahead helps a ton. Obviously, I might have a plan A, and then this nice new card shows up, and I'm like, oh, I can do that instead. But it's just, man, it never gets any easier. But just try to stick with what you know. Like, find a deck that you genuinely find fun, that you genuinely feel like, oh, this is what I want to like try to climb ladder with. There's no point in trying out a deck, oh, this is the best one, I'll just have to play it just because. It doesn't help, because then you're just playing anxious in a game that you are not enjoying, and there's no reason for that. Like, have fun with it.
So then what is it about Drunk Paladin that you like? Like, for an example.
Girl. Okay. Again, I like proactive, very proactive decks. It's fun. I'm sorry. You tell me Drunk Paladin is not fun?
I like Sunset and
I
Vanessa. I like when she summons a bunch of 5/5s for me. I like
Big
when I play the
boys. We
bear.
love big boys.
I like when I play the bear and then he casts the tree over and over, and then I can kill a Sarah 3 times. You should give
Fair.
it a try. It's fun.
Oh no, I was not being critical at all.
He's personally attacking us.
I have been on occasion called a paladin main. I'm just asking, like, due to the context of what we were talking about, what is it about the paladin that you find interesting? Like, why does that call to you versus, say, Protoss Rogue?
Again, I am bad at math.
So,
Fair.
so the thing that I found with Lina, just seeing her play, she likes having decisions, but she likes having controlled decisions. She's very much like me with that. Right, so a lot of people like Discover or Casino decks, right? Neither of us are really casino
Oh.
players. We like when we have a lot of options, But we like the options being very narrow in scope.
Confined, yeah.
Yeah, very confined. It's a good way to describe it. Where, we have our spells. What are they? The brews, the divine brews, right?
Mhm.
You can put divine brews on your face to attack a minion. You can put it on your minions to give them divine shield and bubble them up. You can even put multiple on a single divine shield minion to make it value trade, right? But either way, you have a set number of ways to put those bubbles on your characters. Likewise with Shaladrisil, right? You can hardcast it and just use it to win the game in a turn or two. Or you could go long with Ursol and play, 3 copies of each card in there. Each corrupted versions too. Which, again, it's a set number of cards that you're generating. You know which ones you're getting all the time, but you still have a lot of options with them. And it also helps because it means that, like, if you're someone like Lina, who is just learning the game, you have only a set number of cards to learn. You don't have to learn the entire set right away. You don't have to worry about discovering a new card and you don't know what it does. You don't have to worry about, missing an out that you were looking for. It's a lot easier.
I think that was also one of my problems with like evolve decks, where you would evolve it and I wouldn't know what was gonna appear. Would it be good? Would it be bad? It was just like the unpredictability of it scares me. I don't know what to do with this.
So a lot of the comfort for us comes from these fixed outcomes, where although the deck has a lot of options and ways to play it, a lot of different avenues to take, you're still using the same cards and you know what they're going to do every single time. So it's much more easier to grasp. And that's a facet that both of us, I can say, enjoy.
You're a big fan of decks like Yogg in the Box or things like that?
Oh, of course, especially when I know they're going to cast 10 Pyroblasts straight to my opponent's face. That's the best.
Lina looks skeptical.
Oh no, she's going to reveal me.
No,
She's gonna
no.
out me.
I'll be nice.
Thank you.
You just need that one time of Yogg in the Box building you a board, destroying it, and then Wheel of Deathing you to finish the Yogg in the Box. That happened to me last week, and I have not played that deck since. It was enough for me to put it away. And I like Spell Mage normally.
I used to love that with the old Yogg, where it was like however many spells you cast, it casts. And it was like, hey, we got a board. Hey, we don't have a board. Hey, we have a board. Hey, we don't have a board. Hey, we have a board. Hey, we don't have a board. Like, those are the best.
Every single time I did that. Every single time I did that, there was one thing guaranteed. I would be 6 cards deep in fatigue.
Yes.
Every time. Lina?
Yep.
Now I was gonna say, to be fair, it is fun to play those decks, but those aren't the decks that I use for like ladder and stuff like that. It's for like a little casual fun, hee hee haha, let's see what this does.
Yep. I am a huge fan of those types of decks. So as we have discussed before on this podcast, I'm pretty sure. So the first episode I came on. Yeah. The stress while playing comes in a lot of different ways, as we've talked about. As a musician and as a music teacher and band director, I see it all the time for just performance anxiety in general. To where I tell my students I still deal with it in my everyday work. They see me shake my arms out before every single performance. And, it's one of those things to where I use a quote from Leonard Bernstein, or not Leonard Bernstein, from Eric Whitacre, I think, of you never get over that fear of performing. You just get used to being very terrified. And that effect that it has slowly kind of lowers to where, it's just one of those things where you have to find your way to deal with it, whether it's taking notes, whether it's, knowing when you need to take a break, or knowing when this type of deck is not the type of deck you need to be playing in that moment, and figuring out kind of what that is. For me, it's having something to fidget with and, do while I'm playing, because then that kind of keeps me from doing that. I notice my matches, and especially like my THL matches I do best in, are the ones where I'm relaxed. I'm kind of moving and bouncing around and just doing something else while I'm playing, because then I'm not so focused on what happens if I misplay, no matter who I'm playing. And it's something that personally has helped me. So I think that's all that I have for the topic. If anyone has anything else that they want to chime in with here. So
I think we've covered
I
everything.
think it's
yeah.
time for some dessert.
Yes.
Speaking of, we have one more interview question for everybody. Lina, we'll start with you. What is your favorite dessert?
Oh, I'm not very much a sweets girl. Blueberry pie.
Fair enough. How about yourself, NHL?
Unlike Lena, I am a dessert connoisseur. If we're talking about pies, like Lena mentioned, the best pie I've ever had was a blueberry peach pie I had back when I was like 14, I want to say. I had it once. It was made at this bakery, mom and pop bakery. Absolutely fantastic. If we're talking about general desserts, though,
Cinnamon bun.
you wish.
Swedish cinnamon bun.
No, I would say the Tosca buns, because the Tosca buns are great, but I'm gonna go a little different. There's this delicacy over in southern Portugal that I have had. We call it torta de amêndoas. Okay, but it's a very specific kind, because down south they make it a little bit differently. It's an almond tart, and we have a little bit of custard on the inside, and it's surrounded by almonds on the outside. It's almost like an ice cream cake, but it's not ice cream. It's very creamy, somewhat sweet, just slightly earthy from the almonds, but it just melts in your mouth, and it's a wonderful little treat to get whenever I'm over there. I wish I could find a picture and show you guys on the pod. Unfortunately, you guys are listening in, so I don't know if I can describe the photo. But if you ever go to that region, highly recommend it. You get like a roll and just take a slice off. It's just heaven's delight.
You can send me a picture and I'll tweet it out on the Bread and Butter podcast
Yes,
Twitter
give me a
feed.
second.
But one thing I did learn about food is if you know those Swedish meatballs you get at IKEA and stuff, in Sweden they're just called
Yes.
meatballs. Anyway,
Yeah.
so everybody, you know the drill. If you like the show, if you help us gain a following by just telling people to listen, maybe even giving us a 5-star review, let us know. And if you have guests you want to come on, let us know. We actually have some guests lined up that other people have let us know. In fact, Tyler Knife, she let us know some people she wanted on the show, and at least one of them is coming on, if not both of them. So let's go. Pilot, where can people find you on social media?
You can mainly find me on Discord, Pilot712. That's Pylet. And in a few different Hearthstone Discords. You can also find me on Twitter at the same handle, but I do not check that nearly as often. So Discord is your best bet. You can ping me there or DM me.
Lina, if people want to find you on social media, where can they find you?
Mostly on Discord, honestly. I go by Azulinas with 2 A's at the end, I believe, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
Yeah, that's where I mostly hang out.
If you're not sure, join the THL Discord, and you can probably find her there. How about yourself,
Yeah.
NHL?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter, NHLNjFan1_HS. I haven't tweeted much there. I've been avoiding Twitter a bit. I'm also on Blue Sky. I haven't tweeted much there either, but I'm a bit more active in viewing things and liking. So you can send me a message on either one. And of course on Discord, NHLNjFan1. As well as through THL. So we can contact me to the THL site. We have a contact us page, and we also have help at Team Hearth League. I read all those emails. We've had some pretty cool individuals coming through. One I may actually suggest to the Bread and Butter podcast to discuss some things, because he's got a really cool project coming along. And yeah, just hit me up at any of those, and I'll probably get back to you within the hour because apparently I don't have a sleeping schedule.
Fair.
Can't confirm.
And for those that don't want to tweet anymore because Elon Musk owns Twitter, good news, he sold Twitter to himself. Anyway, you can find me on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok while it's still in America, and various other places at Tito Santana HS. NHL, do you got anything you'd like to promote this week?
I
Or
mean,
shout outs?
we've already promoted THL more than enough, so I don't think I have to give too much of a shout out there. But you know what? Let's shout out Ron Mexico a bit, as him a little bit of a nod earlier about his team. He streams Ron Mexico HS on Twitch. He usually streams every night during the week. Really cool guy. High legend player. He's usually around rank 100, rank 200. Recently, he's been in a pretty high rank in the America server, so he's been going to other servers like Asia to play games. He's a hunter connoisseur, likes playing proactive decks too, similar to Lina and I, and just really fun personality. Would recommend checking him out.
Yeah, and Ron's been on this episode, I think, not as much as Pilot before he was a host, and not as much as World 8, but I'm pretty sure he's like third as far as the number of times he's been on the
Pretty close.
Written About It podcast. So we love Ron. Ron's actually a part of Amberflake Gaming along with myself. So yeah. Lina, do you have anything you'd like to promote or shout out this week?
I want to shout out my two teams, my two free agent teams. I have a hero team called Your Best Nightmare, and I also have a pro team that's called the Egg Bashers.
Yes, both in THL.
Yes, I just want to shout them out and wish them all the luck.
Pilot, how about yourself? Anything you'd like to promote or shout out this week?
Yeah, I want to kind of adding on to what they were both saying. Just give a shout out to THL and especially to all involved with the board. And with that, it is a fantastic organization. As I jumped in and started playing during Titans, I think was my first season. Tito pulled me in to the team that he got pulled into, jumping straight into pro and figuring out how much I was over my head to start. But a lot of different ways to play, different levels. They talked about Legacy having the PR rating. There's a spot for everyone in THL, no matter what level, no matter what way that you want to compete. There are so many different ways that you can find a way into that space, and they've done a great job at fostering an excellent community over there. Highly recommend checking it out.
Yeah, and I agree. Like, one of the coolest thing about joining, so I joined the Pro League in my first actual season. I subbed for a couple teams here and there. I think I subbed for a Wild team and a Legacy team at one point. But the first team I joined was Pro, and I was playing people that were on the Masters Tour. And I was like, this is what? So, I mean, that's like a really cool experience. So if you ever watch like Twitch and when they have actual events and you're like, wow, these people are pretty cool. And then all of a sudden you get a chance to play against like Donkey or McBannerface or something like that. It's an experience. And sometimes it's just an honor to lose in 3 games and move on. But sometimes you actually can win a couple games and you can delude yourself in the fact that you win the series and you never do, but it's okay. But anyway, guys, I think we're toast. We'll see you.
See ya.
You guys can say goodbye.
Bye.
See you around. Thanks for having us.
Slide two brothers meet one another when they slide up to the mic. It's bread and butter with one another. Let's start up that recording light.